All right, what's up, guys? I'm so excited everyone is. Where is everybody? Still having church? We still have church when there's nobody here? Heck yeah, we can. What's up, guys? Pastor Cody here with Arcadia TV. As you can tell, we have a little different location than where we typically record these segments at. I am sitting right now on the stage in our Student Ministry Center here at Arcadia First Baptist Church. Typically on Wednesday nights, we would have worship from the stage, we would have God's Word being spoken, and just a lot of awesome things going on in this room. But I know right now, like many people all across this world, not only our country, we're having to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. I know it's kind of changing up what we would consider normal. Many of you guys right now are back in the school, at least on an online format, which is kind of cool. A little different. I hear the challenges with that. But normalcy, as we know it, is different. And we're having to deal with that. We're having to learn with that. We're having to adapt, especially as a church and as a ministry. So that's why we are coming at you guys with Arcadia TV. And I want to talk to you guys today, just laying on some God's truth to you. Now, this message is for all people, but it's going to specifically be geared towards middle and high school students. I want to start off to say, first of all, guys, I miss y'all. Honestly, it's weird not having you here. I miss hanging out with you guys. I miss the awesome Super Smash Bros. Tournaments that happen back there, which I'm no good at, but they're fun. The ping pong guys back there tearing it up, something else I'm not good at. But it's okay. We have an awesome time here. I miss seeing you guys, and hopefully very, very soon we'll be meeting again in person and hanging out and hearing about all the crazy stories we're going to have from being quarantined from COVID-19. Now, today we are going to be in the book of Numbers. I know we're going old school today. Not necessarily the book that you would go to when you're looking for encouragement during difficult times, but there is a certain thing that happens in Numbers chapter 9 specifically that I think is perfect for what we're going through right now as believers and followers of Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I love historical sites. I love history. It's one of my passions. And one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced is getting to see old historic mansions and buildings. Here in Texas, I've been to the Alamo, I've been to the monument at San Jacinto, which are all really cool. Go down to Galveston, there's a lot of cool homes. But back in Missouri, there was one place that I loved going to. I went about 3 times, and that was the Shaw Mansion. Now, if you don't know much about that, at the Missouri Botanical Gardens, if you don't know, my family just moved back to Texas from the St. Louis, Missouri area, so we spent a lot of time there. And there was a place called the Missouri Botanical Gardens. And one of the locations there had a really cool historical home. Now, when we first went there, me and my wife, it was during Christmas time. They do a really cool thing where they light everything up in the park. So it's really cool. Everything's lit up, all the plants, all the buildings. And I remember one day we were there, and we were walking, and off in the distance, I saw this really cool old building. And of course, my mind goes to, dude, I want to check that out. That's going to be so cool to see. And so we get up there and closer, and the next thing I know, they're letting people in. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are going into this place. And my wife was like, okay, sure, cool. But we do. And the coolest thing about it is they were offering guided tours. Now, here's the coolest thing about this. I could have just walked into that home and said, you know what, this is cool. This is awesome. Let's look around. Let's look at the cool architect, look at the cool original furniture pieces, and thought, man, this is awesome. And my mind could develop so many stories about what happened here, what was going on. But there was a guy. That guy made that experience so much better because not only were we just looking at a cool home, he could break down the history. He could say, well, in this room, this happened. And this is why they built it this way. This is why they put this here and they put that there. And overall, it made it a very much more enjoyable and much more fulfilling experience. Because then not only was I just seeing an old building, I was learning the history of the building. I was learning the background of that building, which was so cool to find. Well, I noticed that in our lives, God is our guide. He's a lot in the same way because we face challenges a lot that we need help with. And God was not the type of God that was just like, hey, here's my word, read it, have an awesome time, see you when I come back. Peace. You know, that's not what God did. God said, you know what, not only am I going to give you my word, but I'm going to guide you. I'm going to lead you through different methods in different ways to help you navigate the craziness that life is. Now, go into Numbers chapter 9, verses 15 through 23, is where I'm going to read from. First of all, let me give you a little background before we get into that. Now, this is coming off a year-long stay at Mount Sinai. So if you're not familiar, this is the ancient Hebrew people. Moses had led them out of slavery from the Egyptians. So they've already crossed the Red Sea. They've already overcome the Egyptians. So now they are on their way to the Promised Land. Well, God has had them parked out on the base of this mountain called Mount Sinai. For an entire year they were here. And a lot of cool things happened if you're not familiar. This is where Moses spoke with God. This is where the Ten Commandments were written. So a really cool thing happened. And so now God was like, all right, you were here, we're ready. We are going to head to the Promised Land. Now the Promised Land, you got to understand, was something really cool, something awesome that Hebrew people would know about. It was the land promised to Abraham. So this is something they probably held onto for hope during all their years of slavery. And now God, through Moses, was finally leading them to the Promised Land. And on that journey is where we're kind of picking up at. Because if you notice that in Numbers, after Mount Sinai, the rest of the book of Numbers is about their journey. It's about that travel and everything they ran into. But starting in chapter 9, verse 15, it says, on the day the tabernacle was set up, the Lord covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, and it appeared like fire above the tabernacle from evening until morning. It remained that way continuously. The cloud would cover it, appearing like fire at night. Whenever the cloud was lifted up above the tent, the Israelites would set out. At the place where the cloud stopped, the Israelites camped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at the Lord's command, they camped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they stayed put. Even when the cloud stayed over the tabernacle many days, the Israelites carried out the Lord's requirement and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud remained over the tabernacle for only a few days. They would camp at the Lord's command and set out at the Lord's command. Sometimes the cloud remained only from evening until morning. And when the cloud lifted in the morning, they set out, or it remained a day and a night. And they moved out when the cloud lifted. Sometimes the cloud remained 2 days, a month, or longer. Either way, the Israelites camped and did not set out as long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle. But when it was lifted, they set out. They camped at the Lord's command. They set out at the Lord's command. They carried out the Lord's requirements according to his command through Moses. Now, give you some context here. So whenever the Israelites would move, they would always set up a tabernacle. It was their place to worship God, a place to give their sacrifices. It was a very important thing to their community. They would set this up wherever they went. And so they would always put it in the middle of their community. The tents would surround it, and this would be a focal point of where they were going. So they needed to go somewhere. And you got to understand that they were probably itching really bad to get to the Promised Land. But God had his own pace. And so how God would lead them and guide them is he would have a cloud that would appear that said that it looked like fire. How awesome would that have been to see that? And that it would settle somewhere, and that's when they knew, hey, this is where we're going to put the tabernacle. And God's cloud would remain there until he was ready for them to leave. So they would just sit and wait, and they would watch, okay, the cloud's still there, I guess we're still put. And then whenever that cloud would lift, they would say, all right, pack it up, let's keep going. And eventually the Lord would make that cloud descend again and be like, this is where I want you to camp. So it's a really cool visual way that God was leading his people during this time. And not only was he leading them, he was telling them how fast they should go. Because think about this. They weren't there for just a little bit. Pick up what some of that verse said. Sometimes they were there for a day. Sometimes they were there for a week. Dude, sometimes they were there for even longer. Who knows if God put them in place for a year again? Could you imagine what the challenges that they were facing? Can you imagine being somewhere just so badly wanting to get there? Have you ever been there before where you're just so ready to get to a certain place? And whoever you're traveling with, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's an older sibling, an aunt and uncle, whoever, and they just keep wanting to stop. And you're just like, really? Come on, we got to get there. Who cares if you want to go see the world's largest bottle of Cat's Up? Shout out to Illinois, by the way. But who cares about that? You know, I want to get to where I want to get to. I want to get to the place that I've been waiting and dreaming of going to. And God was like, no, you're going to go at the pace that I want you to go at. And so when we're going through times like we're going through right now, we got to understand that God is still in control of all this. And God has his reasonings for why things are happening. And God also has his reason for the speed that they are happening. And so there's a couple of things I want to help us to remember, that kind of give us encouragement and some guidance during these crazy times. For one, we need to remember where we have been. Israel had a tendency to constantly forget that. Think about everything that God had led them through to this point. He brought them out of slavery. He parted the Red Sea for them to cross. He has been providing them with so many things. And when you recognize that, it's easier to trust and follow God. If I told you that you need to come and trust me and follow me to go somewhere, and I'm like, listen, we're going to go, but you need to just come with me. If you trust me, if I have done things in your life already to bless you, to help you, you're going to be more willing to follow me, because you're going to think, you know what, he's trustworthy. I trust him. He's helped me before, so I trust that he's going to help me again. Well, in our relationship with Christ, we need to remember that. First of all, we need to remember that even though our society seems like it might be on the verge of falling apart, and people are scared, and people are panicking, and people are hopeless right now, we need to remember that God has brought us through so many difficult challenges. God has been there for us during things that this country has gone through that have rocked the foundation. We look at the wars we've been in, the other epidemics that have gotten loose, tragedies that have hit, even in our own personal lives, the challenges and the obstacles that he has helped us overcome. Remember that. Guys, remember where you have been and what God has brought you through. Because remembering that and holding on to that can be a great source of encouragement as we're going through what we're going through now. To say, you know what? Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? God's brought me through crazy before. God's brought me through challenges before. And it's so much easier to say, you know what? God is tested and God is true. And he has helped me, so I believe and trust that he's going to help me now. But not only do we need to remember where we're going, the second thing is we need to actually follow God when he leads. It's completely different to say that you trust in God than to actually do what God asks you to do. The Israelites are following God right now. They could have easily said, you know what, God? We've only been walking for a short period, and you drop that cloud again. Where are you even leading us? No, we want to keep going. Let's go for a few more hours, and then we can. They didn't do that. They said, God, you know what? We're going to follow you. You said we stop, we'll stop. You said we need to stay here for a while, we'll stay for a while. You say we need to go, we go. And we need to actually, as followers of God, do that. Follow him, trust in what he's doing. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7 says, we need to cast all of your cares on him, talking about God, because he cares about you. Don't forget that. God cares about you. He knows what you're going through. He hates that you're struggling. But you know what? He loves you. And there's a reason for this. And guys, we need to trust in that. We need to trust in God enough to follow him right now during this crazy time. And the third point, guys, as we kind of come near the end, is when you're waiting, what are you doing? It's so easy right now to just say, you know what, we're locked in, we can't really go out, let's just chill, let's get better at Smash Bros, let's just waste time on Facebook, waste time on whatever. But think about what Moses constantly said about the people of Israel during this time. What did they do when they stopped? They said they continued to work as if it was upon the Lord. They continued doing God's work. They continued to focus on, okay, we're here, let's work, let's get to it. Guys, we need to remember that. Whether you are locked into your home or you still have to go to work or whatever it may be, guys, still always find those opportunities to serve God and to do God's work. And honestly, right now, that can be something as simple as your attitude. Are you having a godly attitude during this? Are you encouraging people? Are you the type of person where you're going home and trying to encourage your family, encouraging your parents or your wife or your kids? Are you the one that when you get home, you're just like, oh my gosh, grumble, 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 complain, complain, complain? Guys, lead your families. Guys, do God's work even in this. Be in God's word. Find ways to love on your neighbors, to give encouragement to other people, even if it's through Facebook posts, or if it's through social media, or if it's through whatever means, guys. Even in this moment where we are stuck as a nation in so many ways, continue to do God's work until he's ready for us to go out. That's what this is all about. That's what so many churches all across America are doing right now, saying, you know what, we are stuck in this place where we physically cannot meet in this building. You know what? We're going to keep doing God's work. We're not going to stop. We're going to find new ways to do it. We're going to find different ways to do it. And try to find ways to just glorify God's name and to praise Him, even when we can't be here together. So that's my encouragement to you guys. You know, remember, this is just a season. God has us through this, and we don't know how long it's going to be, but we know it is a season. And it might be a few years, it might be a few months, but there's going to be a time we're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, you remember that coronavirus craziness? You remember when COVID-19 hit? You know, I was telling my wife the other day, one day my son, who's almost 2 years old, is going to say, hey, Dad, tell me about COVID-19. I heard this crazy stuff at school. What was that like? Meaning we're going to get through it. There is going to be an end to this. And we need to remember that this is a season that God's going to walk us through. And we have to ask ourselves, during this time, how can we continue to serve God? How can we continue to praise God and to worship God? How can we continue to honor Him in everything we do? Whether it's through how we talk, or our attitude, or how we're treating and loving our family or other people. Because guys, that makes all the difference. So remember that God's still here. He's still in control. He has not abandoned you. And we see in 1 Peter, He loves you. He cares about you. Don't lose track of that. Cling to that, knowing that you have a God who created the universe, who loves you personally, cares about everything you're going through, and says, listen, I'm having you wait for a moment, but just trust in me. Because one day this cloud's going to lift again, and you're going to be able to go forward again. But for now, just wait and trust. I love you guys. I cannot wait to see you again in person, and I cannot wait to kick some of your butts at Super Smash Bros. We'll see. Love you guys. Talk to you later.